Another one of Golden Point. Golden Point got a lot of Guernseys back in that period. Again, busy gold fields, 3 Aboriginal people and their essential hunting dogs down here at the bottom. Again, you know, walking right close to the creek, very close to where all the diggings are occurring. These illustrate, or this one at least, and others, are in local Ballarat Goldfields history books. They're not hidden away somewhere. Actually there, just that we have sort of overlooked it. Now this one is in the National Library, and I was so stoked when I came across it. I was so stoked because it shows an association of Ballarat. It must be pretty close down to where Carrick Reed is now, looking, I presume, but is anybody sort of, I'm a bit geographically challenged. But we can see the encampment of the soldiers here. It must have been pretty close to when the Eureka stockade occurred, because you have a large collection of redcoats still here. And as far as my history of Eureka stockade goes, there weren't many redcoats prior to the Eureka rebellion. They did stay around for a little while immediately after the rebellion. We also see Chinese figures here in the foreground and 2 Wathrung figures in the foreground as well.
Would that be Camp Street?
I thought that this would be Main Road. Anybody else have a...
Is that a breach, Fred?
Pardon?
Is that a breach at all? Just see where the redcoats are, behind them. Is that a breach?
A ridge.
A bridge.
A bridge. Yeah, it does look like a
And I'm wondering if that would be like at the end of Bridge Street Mall, where the... and so, you know, we'd be back up a little bit, perhaps on Bakery Hill or somewhere like that. Just guessing.
Well be.
Because Camp Street, if that is the camp, that would be Camp Street further up that way.
So the modern structure of government camp was up on Camp Street?
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. Okay, yeah, that would be probably Bridge Mill.
Yeah.
And that dirty road going up past the tents, almost in the middle between the 2 trees, would be Sturt Street, would it?
Could well be. Hasn't changed much, has it?
More parking
No, I'm finding that the more I search, the more I'm finding. That's the remarkable thing.
Fred, where did you find that image?
It was in the National Library. Yeah, that one sadly is not available through the website. That's, the National Library and State Library are like icebergs. That what you see on the website is merely literally a microscope of what they actually have out in the stack. But I'll put in a plug right now that when my book comes out, you like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully that will be part of the illustration. Interestingly, one of the other roles that Aboriginal people had was to build shelter. That we're talking about a largely illiterate society of non-Indigenous people that came over. My descendants, my forebears, couldn't read or write. They are a simple sort of country folk. And they didn't know how to survive in the bush, and how to set up camp was a very foreign experience. And many miners in their journals and letters and books that were published described how it was much easier for Aboriginal people to get them to build mire mines for them. And interestingly, the white miners actually took on this word. It became part of their vernacular. That they didn't call their tents tents. They actually called their tents mire mines. They adopted that Indigenous word right across Victoria. It's only after the gold mining period, the alluvial gold mining period had petered out, that this word mire mine sort of disappeared from our literally everyday language. And they had different ways of constructing them in this area. You can see this is just a very simple break wind, I suppose we would call it now. Whereas this is an Aboriginal encampment in Ballarat, photograph, about 1870. In this area, they tended to be more in a dome sort of shape, more permanent ones. Some of them had, this one you can see in the background there, had skins. Others are recorded as having what we would now call mud brick. One miner recorded coming across one that had seats around, and sort of a seat for, he described it for between 12 and 20 people. So we're talking about rather large housing structures that they were traditionally making in this region. Very useful to be able to employ an Aboriginal person to quickly make you some shelter from the Ballarat winter, as you can imagine. There's that illustration again of Golden Point.
The way in which the Eureka diggings were discovered was on the occasion of my sending out a blackfellow to search for ores. Picked up a nugget on the surface. Afterwards, I sent out a party to explore who proved that gold was really to be found in abundance. Geelong Advertiser, September 1852. The way in which the Eureka diggings were discovered was on the occasion of my sending out a blackfellow. The way in which the Eureka diggings were discovered.
It's a popular story. So the Geelong Advertiser, September 1852. This is not just a this was recorded. That people were aware. My point is, people were aware of Aboriginal people's impact and presence on the goldfields of Ballarat and other goldfields, especially the alluvial goldfields in particular. But at least in that period of time, they knew that they were here. It's just that we've lost in our memory that they were participating in goldfields now, ironically enough. Some of the lovely stories that I've made up these audio links to how we're going to make it a bit more interesting for our students.
A member of the tribe would drop in at a local bank to sell a parcel of gold. Knowing one's about to, and considerable manoeuvring went on to win over the confidence of the seller. The second to a ride, and in gleeful anticipation the pair drove off into the country. The merry travellers lubricated every puddle on the way. They got down to business. "You're a very fine fellow, Jakey." Jakey agreed with a wide grin. "You selling bloody gold?" "Yes, boss." "Now you tell me where you get the gold, and I like you very much." Jackie, unabashed, apparently not a bit stupid, immediately replied, "Boss, blackfellow, no bloody fool." Jonathan Moon, Malden, Paddock 64.
That story was actually republished in the 1950s. The other sort of excerpts that you'll hear and see have usually and quite often have been published in demonstrating how we can make it a bit more interesting for our students.
A member of the tribe would drop in at a local bank to sell a parcel of gold. Knowing one's about to got to hear considerable manoeuvring went on to win over the confidence of the seller. A slick townsman invited Jackie for a ride, and in gleeful anticipation the pair drove off into the country. The merry travellers lubricated every puddle on the way. They got down to business. "You're a very fine fellow, Jakey." Jackie agreed with a wide grin. "You selling bloody gold?" "Yes, boss." "Now you tell me where you get the gold, and I like you very much." Jackie, unabashed, apparently not a bit stupid, immediately replied, "Boss, blackfellow, no bloody fool." Jonathan Moon, Malden, Paddock 64.
That story was actually republished. The other sort of excerpts that you'll hear and see have usually and quite often have been published in regional histories. So again, I stress it's a matter of you sort of doing, teacher as researcher is critical here for you to find out these stories. It wasn't just alluvial gold either, it was quartz reef mining that the Jarjaruk people were doing just to the north of